Hey, Tommy, I've got a great video today because recently I had a great conversation with Sheldon, the chief engineer of the Toyota Tacoma, and he goes into great detail as to exactly what happened when our Toyota Tacoma's front differential snapped, and more importantly, what Toyota is doing about it so that it doesn't happen to you guys if you have a truck similar to ours. But you might have an important question.
Yeah, why did it take so long to get this story out there? So right after our Toyota broke, we went back to them, explained the problem. They launched a full investigation and found the answer. However, they told us the answer off the record, meaning we could not publish what happened. However, they have finally agreed to go on the record to tell us the full story, and that's what we're going to run right now.
Uncut and unedited, Tommy. Hey, Sheldon, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate the fact that you've taken time out of your busy schedule to address what happened with our 2024 Toyota Tacoma. So let me set the stage just very quickly. As you know, we bought the car back at the beginning of the year, and we picked it up in Texas and drove it to Colorado. And kind of in the middle of winter, we decided to take it off-road. And we took it up one of our usual off-road areas called the Ironclads. There was snow on the ground, there was ice on the ground, and I was driving it. We were kind of having trouble going up a couple of icy rocks. And then if you watch the video, there's a snap and there's this look on my face. And many people might construe that that's me bummed out that something broke. But it's actually me bummed out that I have to call you guys that something broke because we're kind of traditional journalists. And before we publish videos, we want to make sure that you're aware of it. And so the big question, of course, is what happened? What broke on the truck?
What was that?
Oh, that wasn't good. I wonder what that was.
Yeah, no, well, hey, thanks, and thanks for sort of recapping that. And I certainly appreciate your guys' collaboration and letting us have a chance to take a look at it. I'm laughing because I guess the only alternative is to cry. I remember, I think that was February 28th at 11:58. I look at my team's message from Adam, and it says, hey, TFL broke their truck. It's like, huh, what? But in all sincerity, we had a chance to get out there. Anytime we launch a vehicle, we have something that we call EDER. That's early detection, early resolution. We know anytime we launch, there's the possibility that there's a problem. And we look not just at media vehicles or known users, but when we start to see a trend in something, or if we see something that has a pretty high severity. And in your case, the last thing in the world that I'd expect is that we'd see the front differential have a problem. So the drive lines are tested years and years in advance. We've got vehicles with hundreds of thousands of miles. So cut to the chase. We were based on your the information that you had sort of verbally provided to me over the phone. We thought, okay, this sounds like you had functional rear drive but not front drive, loss of traction in the front drive. So it sounded like it was part of our ADD assembly. And in fact, it was that was the root cause ultimately. It was something we call the intermediate center shaft, the IC shaft, and that is a kind of a fused failure point. It is serviceable, but that's what actually ultimately snapped on the truck. And so I think that evening we got a couple of engineers on a plane, and we were there Thursday morning at 9 a.m. when the dealer opened up, and we wanted to pull it apart, make sure that we understood what was going on. I'll cut to the chase. Effectively, we did a pretty thorough investigation. Kind of took a threefold pattern. One is get to the truck, recover the parts, and start what is going on in terms of, was the vehicle assembled correctly? Was everything, put together the way it should be? The answer to that was yes, everything was built to spec. Then to recover the actual component parts, not just the IC center shaft. In your case, you were kind enough to let us pull the full transmission, which I think under warranty replaced for, or not transmission, excuse me, front differential assembly, which we replaced under warranty for you guys. And the reason for that is we wanted to make sure that we did a thorough investigation. So we're going to not only look at the manufacturing quality of the subject or the failure part, but also to make sure that there wasn't anything in the background that was contributing. So we pulled the full transmission, or I keep saying transmission, sorry, the full differential apart. We wanted to check the pin, the needle bearings, and we wanted to make sure the pressures are set. We checked all the gear teeth or proper backlash. These are things that could induce, a potential unexpected force, an internal friction or component force. Great news is that all checked out. We went through then and we did all of our material checks and we did our dimensional checks on the actual IC shaft itself. Surface hardness, general hardness, make sure the case depth was the right depth there so that we had the appropriate sort of heat treatment. We went through an exhaustive I'll say look at all of the componentry from the supplier as well. Look at what their process requirements are. Looked at all of their historical data that they had been producing these parts. And so the good news was, and this has been a trusted supplier for us for years and years and years, that they're used all over the world. We didn't expect to find anything, but we always got to check to make sure. At the same time, then we kicked off, and I mentioned that we had a large team working on this. We had some groups looking at this quality side, but we also engaged our design groups and our evaluation groups because we wanted to check, make sure that were our fundamental design calculations correct. So we were kind of going back and rechecking our homework on that. And then we also had a look at the system, I'll say operation. So did the system perform as we expected? So the other nice thing is we were able to pull some of the panel data so we could see what was happening, what was the torque request, what was the mode that was the vehicle was operating for, low, for high, for example, multi-train select, what mode was it in, etc. And this tells us a picture of what's happening through the vehicle, and it's important for us because we want to make sure that the vehicle electronic systems were operating as anticipated. So that did take us a while to go through all of that because we wanted to make sure that we were thorough. In the end, what we finally concluded was there is a very, very rare, but obviously very real case off-road specifically for low, ultra-low muse situation using a very aggressive...
Can you repeat that? You froze up for a second. Could you go back? You said in the end. Start with that, would you?
I'm sorry, start where from there?
In the end, you concluded. It just froze up for a second. That's no problem. Make sure we got it.
No problem. In the end, what we concluded was that there is a very rare, but obviously in your case, real customer use scenario where our traction control logic can exceed the overall driveline system strength. Now, it is a little bit difficult to explain because it's a function of multiple different sort of stars need to align, if you will, in order to achieve this situation. It's probably why we never caught it in screening. But it is a situation that only would happen in for low. It would have to be in a multi-terrain selection sort of area, contributing to the fact that the rear locker was locked. This just means that more of the torque is going to the front of the vehicle. And effectively what in this particular case happened, a long story short, is it sort of sent all of the torque to the front, and then when as you were starting to slide and you saw the vehicle start to slide this way, all the torque went to the one wheel, and then the brake really quickly grabbed it. That in and of itself shouldn't have actually broke the system. But when we start to add additional contributing factors, such as where we were through the RPM range, as well as where we were with the torque converter in terms of efficiency, and a number of other sort of, I'll say, contributors, we did exceed it. And we exceeded it by about 1.7%. So narrowly exceeded the margin. So I tell you that to say that from a fundamental standpoint of view, design, and I'd say what is the risk to our customer, pretty doggone rare. And but we know that that's something that we want to fix. If it can happen, it will happen, and we're going to make sure that we take care of that. So
let me kind of recap just in a very layman sort of way. So the truck has traction control, and basically when a wheel spins, right, the idea is you clamp down on the wheel that's spinning so that it sends torque to the wheel that actually has traction. And the other, I think, good thing about this truck is that new 4-cylinder turbo gets a lot of torque down low. So you don't have to wind up the engine to 5,000-6,000 RPM to get the torque. There's that saying that people buy horsepower but drive torque. It's what you feel. And so I think, it's 1,700 RPM, you get maximum torque out of the 4-cylinder. Is that right? Or did I get that wrong?
No, you're right on it. Yeah, you're spot on.
And so go ahead.
No, please.
So I didn't have the pedal mash down. I wasn't pushing it hard. I know, but I didn't need to do that because there's all this torque down low. And so the truck initially sent power to the rear, and what you're saying is because there was not enough traction in the rear of the truck, it sent torque or power to the front, and then one of the wheels on the driver's side started spinning, so it sent torque to the passenger side wheel, which then, of course, had the brake clamped down, trying to gain as much torque as possible, and that snapped that shaft because there was too much torque going basically to one wheel. Does that sound like a layman explanation that is right?
That's exactly right. And the only thing that I'll maybe add to that is actually you made two really good points there. One is that's pretty typical that we see wheel slip and we grab back and forth. What was really unique is because this was a very low mean surface, mostly all ice, it means there's almost no additional energy being taken out of that drive line from any of the other corners, because it wasn't like if you were in sand or rock, this probably never happens, just because you're getting some, frictional, I'll say, energy taken out of the system based on the frictional interface of the tire. So again, we're sort of splitting hairs here and getting super deep technical. I say that to this because there are certainly customers who are out on the road. They have their Tacomas. Obviously, this really only affects folks who have the multi-terrain select, so really the off-road variants specifically, and so. My point I wanted to say is if you're out there and you're worried about that, this is not something that you need to worry about. Now, again, we're working on a countermeasure within our software. That's well underway. In fact, we launched all our hybrid vehicles because we were able to get those in time. We applied this software logic change that will prevent that situation from happening. And then we're working now to figure out how best to sort of bundle this and get this out to those who might have a vehicle in the market. And I know some people have said, oh, I'm really worried. We don't prescribe that you run larger tires, but we know that people in the real world do. And my general, lay answer to that question, again, we don't endorse or support that, but, real world, we understand that that's how some customers use it. The amount of energy that we can put into this drive line based on the high torque from the engine in the friction or the clamping pressure that we can put on the brake usually vastly exceeds anything that we're talking about based on just tire diameter. Now, I have to qualify that and tell you that doesn't mean if you go off road and you start bouncing front half shafts and things of that nature, you can't damage components in the driveline. But as a general rule, to sort of assuage concerns of like is it super sensitive? The short answer is no. And we're using again a very tried and true design, obviously updated and sized up, gauged up accordingly to the new torque. But the thing that you brought up.
Yeah, let me just repeat once again in layman's terms what I heard you say. So what you're saying is there's a software update that you've applied to the TRD Pro and the Trail Hunter version of this, right? The hybrids.
Yep.
And then it's going to get applied to the non-hybrids that are out in the marketplace. In other words, the ones that people have bought. Now, is this an over-the-air update, or do you have to take this into your dealer?
Yeah, so at this point in time, we haven't determined exactly how we're going to roll that out, but more information to come probably later this summer. The reason for that is it does touch a couple of different systems. And so we just need to demonstrate that any system that's being touched, regardless that it doesn't have any implications to like any of the certification requirements. Again, that's not to say that we're doing anything that would change it. We just have to demonstrate to agencies and other places that anything that we do doesn't have it. So that takes a little bit of time for us. And then the other issue is because of the, I'll say the low severity or likelihood of this happening. I don't want to burden the customer. So we've got a couple of other updates that we're working on to just improve general performance. We're always, tweaking, trying to fix, et cetera. So trying to bundle that together or do something like that so that we make it convenient for the customer. And we haven't really figured out the best way to deliver it just yet, but our quality team is hot on the trails working on that right now.
So I figure the people who are watching this are wondering, this was a unique circumstance. Obviously, this happened in winter when there was snow on the ground. Have you had other instances of this, or was I unique in that I had a dial just right for this to happen?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. And you were a snowflake in this particular case. Honestly, we've got about 43 units in operation right now. That doesn't include all the vehicles that we've tested. This is the only case that we have, and we've looked extensively. We track this pretty much weekly, and we're looking to see if we see any other differentials breaking. And we don't have any other warranty claims, and we don't have any other service parts claims. So if someone decided to buy it on their own dime and backdoor it, so we don't see that happening. So this is an N=1 event.
And how many trucks are out there about,
About 43,000 are out on the road. I can't guarantee that may not all be registered, but they're at least on dealer lots in people's possession. So we don't have a ton of Tacomas in the lot. So most of those 43,000 are in customer hands.
And then let me ask you this question. Since you're kind of the technical guy, I'm sure you can answer this. So the truck has various modes. How do those work? Are there different algorithms that assign torque and assign power to different wheels in different, like front to rear splits, left to right splits, depending on what mode you're on? Can you kind of address that?
Yeah, sure. No, the short answer is yes. There are very specific modes. There's and it depends if you're in 4 high or in 4 low. There are modes that are designed for, I'll say, maximum torque, and also then they want to minimize slip, right? So they're actually going to be looking at wheel speed, the amount of relative motion, and they'll be using brake system and/or torque distribution to adjust that and accommodate that. There are other areas, for example, if you go into mud mode or into sand mode, where we might start you in second gear, as an example, just because we want wheel speed in this case, right? And we want to slow how much we're going to brake. So we may apply some pressure, but probably less pressure in those cases. And the nuances that are something somewhat proprietary in terms of how we do our traction control. But absolutely, you're on the right mode. That's why we have the different modes. And new to Tacoma is we have the auto mode. And that's where the computer is actually kind of looking at what's going on and sort of thinking, okay, because sometimes you're in that sort of environment where you're in mud for a minute, but then you might get into, like a rock scenario or something like that. And so it's not going to only select one mode. It'll select the mode that it thinks is appropriate for that situation. So we spend a lot of time with that. I did want to get back to one thing that you said, though, that I thought was really, really insightful. And I'm really happy that you brought it up. And it was actually something, that it got me thinking about too, just when we were looking at it, was just
based on the comments, I'm an idiot, but go ahead. Thank you for that.
Well, I will prove to the counter that I think you were very insightful in this particular area, that the 1700 RPM in thinking max torque. So I know you're a big proponent of mechanical sympathy, and I appreciate that as an off-roader. A lot of people can have a heavy right foot, but if you really want to do it skillfully, mechanical sympathy is an important thing to keep in mind. Now, I've driven a lot of Tacomas, and usually when I get to that like 3,000 RPM mark, I'm the engine's starting to talk to me, and I'm listening, and I'm kind of feeling what's going on. But it's really interesting because at 1,700 RPM, right? Unless I'm looking for wheel speed, you're getting the maximum torque in this particular case, right? So as we start to move into these quick ramp vehicles that can quickly ramp torque, as a guy, off-road, I got to start to change my habits a little bit and recognize that, I'm actually, I saw a couple of the comments that, that thing just, snapped like a twig. The reality of the situation, there was massive stress through that drive line because we're full torque. I think you were maybe at 25 to 2,700 RPM, if I remember correctly, but, full within in the torque band. And, we're putting in, thousands of megapascal, of newtons of pressure in there. So it was quite stressed, even though it didn't look like it was working that hard. And that means the system's doing what it's supposed to do. It's doing the hard work for you.
Yeah, and here's kind of the interesting part. I think oftentimes people think that when you're an automotive journalist, you drive the car like you stole it. But one of the reasons we buy these vehicles is that our skin's in the game, and so like a typical owner, the worst thing that can happen to us is to break something, because then we don't have the use of it. And for us, that's specifically important because that's how we make our money. If you read the comments, I don't know how to off-road, I don't know how to drive, but I wasn't being hard on that truck. I just want to be sure I was trying to keep it because wheel spin in snow is not going to get you anywhere, right? It's not like sand. It's the exact opposite, actually. All you're going to do is bury the truck.
Yeah. So, yeah, to me, the key message here, and I'll reinforce and be clear in this. This was not in this case. There are certain cases where we can say, oh, customer neglect or misuse may have contributed. Right? I can't build a bulletproof vehicle. It can't survive everything if there's situations where it's being used inappropriately. But this is not that case. This is I can tell you that this was not driver error induced. If we're going to use a system, that ultimately helps the driver and is a driver assist, and we also have to protect for that. So, that we take that seriously. You talked about it. You happen to be an automotive journalist, but you bought one of our trucks. So, to me, you guys are a customer, as is every other customer, right? And to say, oh, that's just an automotive journalist, that's a distinction, or sorry, a difference without a distinction. And that's what our goal is, to bring every one of our customers customer delight, and that's something from the top down from Accio, right? So we take this very seriously, and anytime we see a situation where we let our customer down, that's something, and that's why we have this EDR group, because we want to make sure that we're delivering perfect trucks, and we're humbly reminded at times that we fall short of that, but that is, make no mistake, that is always the goal. So.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're going to Japan for a couple of years. You're moving there very soon.
Shipping out, yep.
So congratulations, or my condolences. Actually, it's congratulations. I think that'll be an exciting adventure for you, Sheldon. And what are you going to be working on? Are you still doing Tacoma, or are you moving on to different, bigger, better, smaller trucks? What are you doing?
Yeah, no, good question. So actually, I'll still be, I'll be taking on North American truck responsibility here. I'll be dual cap, so still be back here in the U.S., but we're working on, I'll say future product, and some of that will be concentrated in
You want to tell me what that is?
Oh, I'd love to, but you know how that goes, right? I get Adam will pull the plug.
I've heard rumors of a stout, a small Toyota. Any truth to that?
I don't know. What's this?
Adam,
I'll have to.
Is this where you jump in? Adam's been on this call the whole time.
That's right. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'll have to go find out. I'll let you know when I find out when I get there.
I had to ask. That's my job. Well,
yeah, no, I understand.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you clarifying what happened. It's great to hear it from the chief engineer of the truck. Thank you. And I'm sure this is not, the last of this conversation. I'm sure we'll be working together again in the future, and enjoy, all that Japan has to offer. It's a wonderful country with a wonderful culture. I'm jealous.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I look forward to it. So like I said, we'll see you guys down the road. Who knows, maybe bump into you in the airport again, as we did in Detroit there. So
that was a funny story. I'll just tell this kind of quickly. After the truck broke, Andre and I were actually in Detroit, and Sheldon lives in Detroit, and we felt really bad about this because, like I say, our goal is not to break trucks, right? Our goal is to test trucks. We have this very personal relationship, and then we had to call you, let you know, give you a heads up that we're going to be publishing the story that the truck broke. And I think the very next day we ran into you at the airport.
Yeah, it was someone said,
Sorry,
I was actually on my way. I was on my way to Japan, and it was.
Didn't mean to break your truck.
Yeah, that was funny. That was interesting. So anyway,
right,
I appreciate, thank you for reaching out to us. And again, thank you for, supporting us and letting us get hands on that and having a look at it. So excited to, I understand you're selling the Tacoma. So we're looking forward to seeing what the next vehicle purchase.
Yeah, we already sold it, and not because we didn't like it. I actually really like the truck. It was just that we can only do like 15 maybe videos with it, and people get bored of it, and so we have to move on to the next greatest thing. And you'll be the first to know. I haven't disclosed this, but I'm going to tell you. We took some of the money that we got from the Tacoma sale, and we budgeted it for, because I love this truck, the new 4Runner Trail Hunter. So I've got a reservation down with our local dealer, one of the first, hopefully, and I can't wait to get our hands on that and not break it.
Yeah, no problem. Well, thank you, and we're happy to hear that people are excited about it, because it was something that we really wanted to. We thought it was there was a need in the market, and hopefully hopefully we'll be proven right in that. Well, time will only tell. So,
all right, I'll probably see you at
care.
Tokyo Auto Show this year.
There you go. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you again.
So really interesting interview there, Dad, and I'm glad that Toyota agreed to tell us and tell you guys the full story on the record, which means that we can finally publish what went on with our Tacoma. I want to clarify, we're not being sponsored by Toyota anyway. We're not being paid off by the manufacturer. There is no money exchanging hands here whatsoever. We just want to get the story straight, and I'm glad that they finally agreed to go on the record and tell what happened.
Yeah, and most importantly, we wanted to get that story out there because a lot of trucks are affected by this, as Sheldon said. And we want to make sure that if you guys have a truck that was similar to ours, that you know that Toyota is working on a solution, and hopefully that will be rolling out soon so that, you know, it won't happen to you. As always,
yep, this has been Tommy
and Roman saying thanks for watching. Remember, go to alltfl.com for more news, views, and real-world reviews, Tommy.
Yep, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Ciao.